and thank you for joining us for this special episode of Business PNG. This has been a busy year for us. The team, along with our correspondents, have had the privilege to travel far and wide around our beautiful country, to go where the story takes us, to report on some of the most iconic events of the year. We have compiled some of these memorable reports for you, our viewers, and tonight we relive them. One such story is that of the smallholder cocoa farmers in the East New Britain province. The cocoa industry in PNG is the backbone for rural economic development. The East New Britain province smallholder cocoa farmers were devastated by the destruction the cocoa pod Bora brought to their cocoa farms in 2006. This has seen a drastic drop in their rural economy since. Cocoa is a highly essential export in PNG, 80% of which comes from smallholders.
Over the years, the cocoa industry in Papua New Guinea has seen a major change in its structure, from big plantation production to smallholder farmers who now produce well over 80% of cocoa export in PNG. The managing director for NGIP AGMA group of companies, John Nightingale, said smallholders play a significant role in PNG's cocoa industry.
An industry that was dominated by plantations from the 1960s, 1970s into the 1980s, and then a decline in from the 1980s in the number of plantations down to a very small number today. There's probably only 5 plantations operating the whole of Papua New Guinea, 5 cocoa plantations that are operating today on a commercial basis. That accounts for probably 3% or so, maybe 4% of the total PNG cocoa crop, and the other 96 or 97% is all smallholders. So the smallholder is most obviously the very, very important, or the most important part of the cocoa industry of Papua New Guinea. It's a smallholder industry, and unless there's some unforeseen development that allows plantations to increase yield to 3 and 4 tonnes a hectare, there's no real future for cocoa plantations unless the yield goes right up. So it's a smallholder industry. It will continue sustainably with the correct policies in place by government.
However, many smallholders in East New Britain province were devastated when the cocoa pod Bora, or CPB, struck in 2006, destroying their cocoa farms. CPB is the most serious threat to the cocoa industry, not just in PNG but globally.
Before CPB, farmers were enjoying themselves. When CPB came, a lot of farmers gave up. Some even lost income, and they have to find other means of support.
An initiative called the Productive Partnerships in Agriculture Project, or PPAP, was put in place to help cocoa farmers. The PPAP program is supported by the World Bank, the International Fund for Agriculture Development, and the European Union. It is aimed at restoring skills, tackling the CPB by imparting management skills to the cocoa farmers, and also helping to revive in the farmers the interest of cocoa farming, which is the backbone for rural economic development.
Most of them after the 2006, and they lost a lot of cocoa to CPB. They couldn't harvest because it was infected, and there was a big drop in production. So most of them nearly gave up. They nearly gave up, and some even left their blocks, and they revert back to subsistence, the small crops, to earn a living. But thanks for this assistance that have come in by the World Bank and the European Union. These farmers are able to revive, and to revive the interest as well, because a lot of them, they couldn't afford new planting materials, and they're lucky that they're in the program and they're receiving the planting materials free.
The smallholder cocoa farmers, now equipped with the skills and knowledge they need, They are ready to transform from subsistence farmers to commercial farmers. They're slowly seeing the fruits of the PPAP in terms of the high cocoa yields.
This year is going to be, already proving to be, the first year that people are seeing really good rewards from their new efforts, new initiatives into cocoa here in East New Britain and of course in other parts of Papua New Guinea.
It's going to be a long uphill battle to get the volume of crop back to where it was and then beyond, but we are on the right track and things are going very well. And the prospects for cocoa for the future are extremely good. High prices are predicted for many years to come.
Other than the cocoa growers of PNG should support PNG-owned companies in cocoa exporting. Just about every other exporter of any size here in PNG is controlled by foreign people. The profits are made outside of PNG, they're never made in PNG, that's a matter of public record. This seems to be largely ignored when licences are given. And we would encourage the government and the Cocoa Board to reconsider this position that of licensing PNG-owned companies that keep their profits onshore. The money stays in PNG and doesn't go to funding, in one case, a sovereign wealth fund in Singapore.
After the break, we look back at the dry spell that affected the country earlier this year.
Port Moresby, a city of 400,000 people. Since the last census in 2011, the population has grown as rapid urbanization attracts people from all over Papua New Guinea. The influx has put pressure on existing services. More people flocking into the capital city means more food is needed, better infrastructure, and certainly more water. Although PNG has abundant resources, much of the country's essential resources are poorly managed. Over 5 million people don't have access to safe water, and over 1,000 children die every year from diarrhea caused by poor sanitation. After a long dry spell that lasted nearly a year, rain has finally begun to fall on Port Moresby as well as villages along the coast. Bill Sweet is the chairman of Water PNG, the government entity responsible for bringing clean water to the country's provinces outside the National Capital District. He says there may be a way to move forward only if institutions are willing to listen.
8 to 9 kina for 200 liters and 50 toya for 20 liters. Yeah. Is this the only supply?
We've got about 10 of them.
10 of them. 11, huh?
11 of them.
Oh. Is it part of the rationing as well, Ediranu is doing?
Oh, well,
you know how they're cutting off the water?
Yeah.
Lucky 2 days ago, yesterday big rain came down and saved us from buying 2 kina from.
Yeah.
So our household has to spend 40 kinas.
30 to 40 kina.
A day?
Yeah, because we had to hire trucks, hire dinghies, go to Koki or Hanubara or there. We get water from there.
Tatana, anywhere?
Tatana there, yeah, we do.
Yeah, okay.
All the way to Baroni, you see some connection there.
Yes.
Our pipe been connected through illegally connection from those Caton Brothers, Atlas Steel,
Mm-hmm.
and those settlements there, they did some illegal connections in it. So that's why they stem our pipe water coming through the villages.
Yeah.
It's very hard for us to, I don't know when. Now you come probably do some assisting to us, and I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean the city's definitely grown over the years, just in the sort of high-end commercial and residential buildings. But now you've got governments focusing on affordable housing. You know, they're talking about 40,000, and I think they've just released 5,000. So 5,000 domestic users within, I believe, near the Garahu area. Sort of that growth going out northwest. So it's definitely growing, and the city needs to, you know, cater for that with the population growth. The situation with the water in Port Moresby is directly linked to the power because it's a hydro system. So power and water are fighting for the volume. I'm not a hydro engineer, but from what I understand, the levels within the dam generate the power, and the lower the level, because of Eduranu's requirement of water usage, the less power we have. So, or less power that's generated. If you're wanting more power, that means you have to have the larger volumes of water staying there and less water coming out. So that's the sort of conflict with the water and power in Port Moresby. You know, Eduranu has a separate source, independent. And then they're free to develop that as much as they want to.
But the water-related difficulties are far from over. While the city expands towards the northwest corridor, industrial projects like the LNG plant and a future refinery will require considerable amounts of water.
You can see with Motor Kia setting up the new ports or harbor ports for NCD, everything's going to gravitate towards them. Shipping companies, industrialized companies that require the movement of transport of product and things like that. So with that, and you'll see that also commercial centers will develop. You know, soon there's going to be a need for a supermarket out there, and then a small township starts growing, and then pretty soon these small little satellite areas merge into the larger city. Well, with the current act, Eduranu can only operate within the NCD city limits because they originally were NCD water and sewage operated from, and then branded to be Eduranu. And Water PNG, we've declared Central Province as our sort of territory, and that's our responsibility as Central Province, which just coming up now will be I think we're in the boundary now of Central versus NCD. And outside of NCD, you've got the development happening where you have the ports, you have LNG, you have Napa. These are sort of outside the NCD city limits. Part of our strategy of purchasing the asset that we're going to go see at Bunu was to have a backup water system for Port Moresby, but also knowing that the growth of the city was coming out this way, especially the industrial side, with LNG and you know, even the future Total coming out as well. So it's definitely growing out that way, and we want to be prepared for it. But we can't do it alone. We have to have Eduranu on board. We have to have Eduranu sign up for some sort of a purchase share agreement where they purchase the water that we produce, and we can have, you know, agreeable rates or amicable rates that everyone wins from, not just, you know, where Eduranu or feel that they're not in control or anything like that. So. Yeah, no, we have a lot of water, but we we sort of squander it away because we have such an abundance of water. We think it'll be in the rivers and the streams forever. But the biggest problem we have is we don't have safe drinking water or safe use of water. Sure, we have plenty of water, but is it disease-free and there's no health issues? I mean, that, you know, we need water to live, but we need clean water, healthy water. 3 rivers basically come together, and what happens is it forms one that goes to the ocean, but the overflow is basically what you see here. Because it doesn't channel nicely into one area, it overflows and comes down here and then creates a big lake, which is what we see a remnants of as it's drying down. But you've got the Brown, Goldie, and the Loloki rivers coming together. I believe the Brown River is the biggest river. Loloki is next, and Goldie would be the smallest one. But if we didn't have those 3 rivers converging, this would not be created here. In this area, there hasn't been water levels so low where you couldn't get water from it since 1930s. So there's an abundant amount of water still coming through here, even though we have the El Nino now. We're still getting the water resource. Not only is it because it's got the 3 rivers supplying it, but it's on state land. It's on state lease. It's not a landowner issue. It's owned by Water PNG that we have for 99-year lease. Here, a water company owns a resource, and it's available. A year and a half ago, we had Bunu open, and we had everything in place with an MOU with the governor of Central Province to sign, so that we can get 4 or 5 villages reticulated water. And to this day, we're still waiting for that signature from Central Governor, but we're hopeful that it'll happen soon. We have to really get the members of Parliament to be aware and to have them drive the initiatives to get water to the villages. It can't be coming from Water PNG or Edironu. We're just companies, you know, there to provide water if a customer wants to connect to us. Sure, we can promote our business and try to get those sales, but to get water established in a district or an area really needs the push from the members of Parliament as one of their priority agenda items that they want to do whilst they're in office. For this area, because there's several villages involved, it's got to start from the central governor, and he promotes that with the individual members of the electorates.
The dry spell that affected Papua New Guinea throughout 2015 seems finally to be over. But it may happen again as the planet struggles with global warming. An alternative water source for Port Moresby seems the least that the capital will need for its future growth.
And that's all we have for you tonight. For more business news, or if you would like to simply view this episode again, visit EMTV online at the URL at the bottom of the screen. Or to join the conversation, like our page on Facebook for daily business news, or follow us on Twitter with the Twitter handle at the bottom of the screen using the hashtag Business PNG. From all of us here, to you and yours, we wish you all a very Merry Christmas and safe celebrations. Until next Tuesday, enjoy the rest of your week. I'm Michelle Bird, and this was Business PNG.